Okay, I think we are live. So, Matt, maybe you could start off just by quickly introducing yourself and then introducing the topic, then you and I can have a discussion on it. Does that sound okay?
Sure, sounds good.
Okay.
So my name is Matt Bryant, and I live and work in Palo Alto. I've lived here for a few years now, and besides living and working here, I do enjoy the community, and I enjoy riding my bike on the streets of Palo Alto. My wife, as well as my two daughters, also ride bikes in Palo Alto. Both of my daughters attend Gunn High School today. And previously they went to the local middle school. So I can tell you that I've got a lot of experience riding on these streets. And I had noticed over the course of the last maybe year and a half, a lot of news about some upcoming projects that Caltrans was going to be repaving El Camino Real. And I brought it up at the local Silicon Valley Bike Coalition Palo Alto chapter, as well as the payback meetings, which is the Pedestrian and Bicycle Action Committee within the city of Palo Alto, as something that we could work on to try to improve bicycling as well as pedestrian safety on the El Camino Real. I would think this is probably a high injury traffic area for pedestrians and bicyclists. So anytime I feel we can take advantage of an opportunity to work with another outside organization such as Caltrans or even the county of Santa Clara to improve bicycling and pedestrian infrastructure, we should. So that's why I reached out to you, was to see what the city is doing and what I could do to help. And that's pretty much where we are now.
Okay, great. Well, Matt, thank you for highlighting this. I'm a huge biking fan myself. I rarely drive. I pretty much either bike or skateboard or scooter anywhere like I can. I'm a huge fan of public transit. I'm just trying to, a lot of us talk about climate change, right? But very few people are willing to do what it personally takes to try to reduce climate change, right? It's always like, oh, let the other person worry about climate change. But the truth is, like in Palo Alto, 60% to 70% of our greenhouse gas is actually transportation of single occupancy vehicles. And if we all bike more or scooted around more, that it would be a heck of a lot less. Plus, it's good exercise, and we have flat terrain, and it's pretty good weather. So,
Yes,
not too many excuses here. And I also have two kids in high school, so I definitely can understand what you're saying. So, yeah. So, in terms of you talked a little bit about some of the work that's happened in Mountain View, and I guess how do you envision the section of El Camino going through Palo Alto? What would your dream scenario be?
sure. Well, I would hope that we would have a project manager that would be looking at these types of city development projects, and they would reach out to the Caltrans designated person. Apparently, Caltrans does have a person that is working directly with each of the cities along the El Camino Real corridor to help them to get funding to add bicycle lanes. The only caveat is that the city must approve this. So as I mentioned in my previous note to you, Mountain View has adopted that they're going to be adding a bike lane. Los Altos has adopted they're going to be adding bike lanes along the El Camino Real, as well as other cities. I believe Sunnyvale has decided to do this, and probably the list goes on. So I feel that when I look out at El Camino Real, I often do see kids riding along El Camino Real that are going to the parks, such as the one right at the intersection of Page Mill and El Camino Real called Mayfield Soccer Fields. Yeah, and I see them going along the sidewalks or quickly, jetting in and out of the traffic lanes. I also see a number of people riding along El Camino that seem like they're just sort of passing through from one job to the next. And I only know that because I've driven alongside of them, and I always am like, oh man, I hope they get through okay. No. Not everybody knows and understands the bike paths that we do have in Palo Alto. Yeah. And if they were going to drive, they know the shortest distance between 2 points is, A to B, right? Straight line. And they're going to be going along El Camino Real. So I think from a diversity, equity, inclusion standpoint, as well as just safety of our citizens of Palo Alto, it's really an important area to have bike lanes, as well as just making sure, again, that the pedestrian infrastructure is also up to speed. I know we even have intersections along Palo Alto where there is a crosswalk, but it's not painted, and there's not even a countdown or a button for a pedestrian to cross.
Have you heard any feedback from staff on this topic?
No, never have. And unfortunately, COVID times made everything a little stranger than normal. But I would hope that we can start to, increase some of the awareness of this area, particularly when we could potentially get support from, as I said, outside agencies to help fund it.
Sure. Yeah. The other kind of side topic here is El Camino itself, especially where I live, which is near California Avenue in El Camino. The road condition is just crazy bad.
It's
like the pavement's all torn up. There's like gigantic cracks. Like whenever if I ever cross on my bicycle wheels are pretty big, so it's okay. But if I ever try to like use my scooter or my skateboard, oh my god, like my skateboard wheel will actually fall in the hole and my skateboard gets stuck. So when I cross the street, I have to walk my skateboard or carry it because it would literally get stuck in the pavement, right? And so it's pretty crazy. So
that's exactly right.
Yeah, we need to get that repaved. And also, I don't know if you heard, but there was a few years ago. This is when my daughter was going to Green Middle School, and we used to have I used to be the coach for the robotics team at Green, and it was held at my house. And so like a lot of middle school kids used to like cross El Camino, going to our house to do Green robotics. And but there was a kid that got killed. I don't know if you heard, on the corner of
yes, Paul.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's really tragic, right? So
yes.
I mean that intersection is really high traffic, right? And so one of the things that in our office that we've been thinking about a lot is the idea of protected bike lanes, especially for a street like El Camino, because a bike versus a 2-ton car, there's no competition, right? The car wins every single time. And so what a lot of cities have done is it's kind of clever. So usually it's like there's the moving car, there's the bike lane, and then the park car, and then the sidewalk, right? That's usually the typical configuration. But what some cities have done is they'll flip the park car and the bike lane. So there's a moving car, there's a park car, there's the bike lane, and then the sidewalk. So the park car acts as like a bollard to prevent the moving car from hitting the bikers, right?
That's right.
One of the big things we found is that a lot of people are afraid to bike because of safety, right? So we did a little poll here, and we found that a lot of people are, it wasn't the weather or what, like a lot of it's just people are worried about getting run over, especially biking on El Camino. Now, for myself, I bike a lot, and so I don't mind taking the road. And you talk to a lot of professional bikers or a lot of people who bike hardcore. Like I'll bike rain or shine, I'll bike in the city council meetings even if it's pouring rain. So I'm pretty hardcore. And for the hardcore bikers, I will like take the lane and do all that kind of stuff. But tell that to a middle school kid, right? I mean,
right.
I mean, you're gonna take the lane and on El Camino. I don't know about that, right? I mean, it's not. I don't know. It's like it's a big fear factor type of thing going on, and so I think if like on El Camino, what might make this more palatable to everyone is if we have protected bike lanes, right? Especially for a road like El Camino, which is technically a highway, right? And that way the bikers feel safe, right? You're not going to be, you're not against fast moving traffic, right?
Right. You've got that buffered bike lane.
Yeah, the buffered bike lane, yeah. And so it's increasingly popular, especially for like really high speed streets like El Camino. So, but yeah, I think I like what you're saying. We're actually going to be starting a change.org petition to kind of push on this topic a bit. Because like I for myself, I try not to run El Camino whenever possible. So I would take, let's say, Um, like sometimes I'll go through like Hanover to like Bull Park,
Yep.
kind of go. I forgot what the name of that trail is. It like near Gun High School?
Yeah, it's Ballpark Trail.
Like
Yep.
a Bull Park Trail, yeah, with the donkeys and stuff. So I'll sometimes do that, which is really scenic, but sometimes it's a little bit out of the way. Or
Hmm.
I'll do park, right? But it's like you got to go like 4 or 5 blocks out of your way each direction. So
That's right.
and sometimes if it's short, I just take El Camino, even though I really hate taking El Camino.
Yeah.
And but I see the same you see, which is a lot of kids like they right on El Camino, it's just the pits, right?
And even though park is our designated bike lane, like I
Yeah,
said, most people that don't live here, and even most that do, don't even know that's the bicycle boulevard. It's not even a protected bike lane. You're
yeah,
sharing the road with cars, and there's many, it's mostly residential area. There's driveways, people are
yeah,
coming and going
yeah,
out of the driveways. So even if you had a buffered bike lane on El Camino Real, it may be a better route
yeah,
than going all
yeah,
the way over to Park. And as I mentioned, commuters that are passing through Palo Alto, they don't know or understand that, and they're not going to stop to look and go out of their way. They want to take the most direct route through town, and most people know that El Camino Real, for a century or more, right, has been the way to go. That street is all across the state of California.
yeah. It wouldn't be cool if you could actually, um, because El Camino goes a long way, I don't know
Hmm.
how long it is, but it's pretty like almost a large part of the state. Imagine if you could actually bike all the way, right? Because with electric
It'd be a
bikes,
lot of traffic lights, but it would be remarkable for sure.
yeah. Well, I mean, with the advent of electric bikes, you can actually go further than you could otherwise, right? So, um, and so like I have an electric skateboard, and um, it goes pretty fast and it goes pretty far, and so like sometimes like I'm like well I'm kind of late. I'll take my skateboard instead because I could go faster, and not get there all sweaty. Um, but um, I've actually been thinking about like upgrading my bike to like a mid-drive bike or like mid-drive electric bike, right, or something like that. Just because then you can go further, right? Because otherwise sometimes you're pushed to go into a car, right? And then when you push into the car, you're kind of lost on the climate change point of view. Plus exercise, right? I think we all need more exercise. So I think that's the other thing is if you provide safety, perhaps it's a way to help the climate and also help people get more exercise, right?
Yeah. And also just the density of the housing that is being built along El Camino Real. We're going to have more people living on it. So by putting in bicycle lanes, it gives them another mode of transportation. It
Yeah,
also increases, business traffic. I
yeah,
know areas that have put in bike lanes, buffered bike lanes, see an increase in people visiting the stores. The one thing that also I think is a downside of Park Boulevard, I use Park Boulevard all the time, but I just want to
yeah.
say, there's no 7-Eleven to stop and get a
That's
drink
right.
again because it's mostly
Yeah,
residential.
yeah, yeah,
So if I had my druthers, I'd much rather be on a more busy street like El Camino where I could stop, grab a drink or a coffee and then, or groceries and then still be on my way. There are no grocery stores on Park Boulevard or Bryant Street being the other one in Palo Alto for that sort of north-south um, direction that you'll be biking. So I think it would just pay off in dividends for all of these reasons that you mentioned: climate change and health.
yeah,
And I think again, getting more people on bikes, uh, uh, allowing the city to adopt to greater density of residents along the El Camino Real corridor. So I really see it would be a win-win-win type of situation. I just hope that we could get the rest of the council members behind this and get us to adopt adding bike lanes and improving pedestrian safety when the Caltrans does come to do the repavement project, which I've heard rumors that it's going to be starting in 2023, which doesn't give us a lot of time.
yeah. Although, this thing's been rolling back forever. It was supposed to be done a
Right.
while back. And so that's why El Camino is such a wreck, was because it was supposed to be done a while back. And there's been delays. In fact, I had an officer just on this very topic because some people are just really concerned about like the quality
The
of
road.
the road. Yeah, it's going to be like just dangerous. Even for like some of the cracks in the road are so big now that you could get your bike tire stuck in it, right? I kid you
Oh,
not.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're deep. They're not just like a superficial crack. It's like, 3 inches, 4 inches deep, right? I mean, it's like some serious cracks here, right? So, yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, you got to be careful. I mean, sometimes you cross it at night, you can't really see the cracks, right? So sometimes if I cross it at night, I'll take my cell phone out and use it as a flashlight. And it's kind of crazy that you have to do that crossing El Camino, right? But uh,
Yeah. Well, and also with all of this increased construction, including the new police station off of California Avenue,
uh,
all of the concrete trucks use El Camino Real as a main thoroughfare to
yeah,
bring very heavy concrete to build these buildings,
yeah,
and they're digging the holes in these streets.
yeah,
They're creating the potholes.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we just got to maintain it behind them. If we want to bring in all this superstructure, infrastructure, we've got to make sure we're keeping all of our streets safe as well,
yeah, for sure.
for everybody else that uses them. So it's definitely time to pave El Camino. If you stand near El Camino, if you went to the farmer's market today on Cal Ave and you just hear cars go by, they just sound like trucks
Yeah,
because the road is so bad.
yeah, you need like a 4x4, right?
Yes,
To
exactly.
get
And we don't
around
want to see
town.
more of those.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, so totally agree with what you're trying to do here. I actually have a legislative aide assigned to this. His name is Josh. And if it's
Okay.
okay with you, I'll have him reach out to you as well. Just to get feedback on some of the things that we're working on. We're trying to advance this topic because I think it's important. So this is an ongoing initiative for us. It's just trying to, how do we help improve the biking infrastructure, especially protected bike lanes? Because I think on a place like El Camino, I think just paint on the road is not going to cut it. I think we may have bike lanes on it, but I don't think anyone's going to use it because this can be super sketchy, right? Uh,
Right, right.
and the other thing that this was back when I was on the planning commission. We talked about this idea of like a grand boulevard. Like I'm not sure if you've ever been to Paris, like Champs-Élysées.
Mhm.
So this kind of like these incredible boulevard. And Not to say that El Camino will get to that point, but you never know. But one thing is if you make it more walkable, let's say the parked cars are moved out like 5 feet or whatever from the curb, right? It creates more calming space. So to walk on El Camino right now is a little bit hairy because you know sometimes there aren't parked cars there, or or like the cars are passing kind of near the pedestrians. So it's still kind of a intense experience, even if you have a curb. So a lot of people don't even like to walk in El Camino because it is high speed traffic. But you can
Mhm.
imagine if there was a little bit more quiet space, right, so to speak, that perhaps it would be more walkable and more people because it does have a lot of shopping areas, right?
Mhm.
But it's not very walkable shopping areas, very much driving kind of shopping areas. But perhaps just to create more of a walking type of space, right, that could help um, create that more sense of place.
Yes, I would wholeheartedly agree. That would be fantastic. And some of the other cities that have adopted these new streetscapes for El Camino Real, they've even gotten rid of car parking, or they plan to get rid of car parking altogether. So many places like Palo Alto have built new car structures not far, where if you
So,
are going to park, you could park there,
no,
but you could allow the bicyclist to essentially take over those lanes, put in the buffered but of trees, between you and the cars,
no,
and then you're still going to have. It's hard to say, but it's 6 lanes of traffic across. When you include turning lanes,
yeah.
etc. Um, so I think that's plenty for the amount of traffic that comes through our area.
I mean, the other thing is, like when I bike on El Camino, because I do a fair amount of shopping in that area, is there's nowhere to park your bike. That's the other thing. It's like there's
Mhm.
there's not, so you gotta go find a pole or something, right? But it's not, um, it's like you see, if you look at in Palo Alto, they have some of the little parklets where you park your bike, right? But sometimes on El Camino, there's just really nothing like that. And some businesses don't
Mhm.
have bike racks. So it's like you gotta take your bike in with you or you gotta do something like that, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So
And I think Stanford University would be up for it as well. Because a big part of their campus runs along El Camino Real.
yeah,
So I think they would be also interested in adopting a new type of streetscape along there.
Yeah, it'd be kind of nice for this to continue all the way like through like going from Mountain View to Palo Alto to Menlo Park, just because if you create that kind of stretch of road, um, then you can actually bike to a lot more of these cities, right? I mean,
Mhm.
right now you have to be pretty, like I said, hardcore to do it. But if with electric bicycles and better biking infrastructure, people would be willing to do it.
That's right. They definitely would, especially the kids that we're raising in Palo Alto, because they all ride their bikes to school
Yeah, yeah.
today as my girls do. And I think about them, but I do things like this to try to be proactive and try to ensure that now that they're riding their bike to their job, they also have a safe route to take, not just a safe route to school, but a safe route to work
Yeah, yeah, or shop, right? I mean, I
or
think that,
shop. Yep.
yeah, yeah, I think that's what we need to do. So Matt, any final words before we end the session?
No, I really thank you. I think we definitely need to think about Vision Zero and improving safety of pedestrians and bicyclists in Palo Alto. And I think that's just one reason, but certainly climate change and the health of everybody who is able to exercise by walking or bicycling along El Camino. And I just want to take advantage of working with other outside agencies such as Caltrans or the County of Santa Clara to try to improve our cycling and pedestrian infrastructure. So thank you, Councilmember Tanaka, for chatting with me about this. And I'm more than happy to continue to work with you on this type of project.
That sounds great. Yeah, you'll be hearing from Josh. And so I asked Inez, Inez will put in a summary on this live stream video and you're welcome to share it. And there might be, other people who are commenting or asking questions on it. So you're welcome to respond on that. But the other
Excellent.
thing is Inez will tag Josh. So he will see this video basically this is an initiative that he's working on. So he's going to try to advance this from where it is right now.
Great.
Okay, great. Have a great evening and thank you for chatting with us tonight.
You too. Have a great night. And
Okay,
thank you,
bye-bye.
Inez.